folks, and welcome to another Saturday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt, going through fun stories from previous places I have worked at. I've worked at a lot of places back in the day, and want to tell my stories. And I have forgotten which one came first. So right now, I am looking at these two. Oh, obviously I did that one next. Never mind. It was a dumb question. All right, so after leaving, I felt that I'd been forced out of Cards, Coins, Collectibles. Our mutual friend slash enemy, frenemy, Fred, was just really bullying me. And I didn't tell anyone, but just really ragging me. I didn't work Sundays. I'd work every Friday night, Saturday night, or all day Saturday. I didn't mind, but I don't work Sundays. And, you know, he was just, saying it was unfair, and, telling he's going to talk to Wayne and, get me fired and stuff like this. And supposedly Fred did the same crap to Wes. But, and Wes said he would have stood up for me and fired Fred. But I just felt like, you know what? He is really being, ugly. He's threatening to go to Wayne and get me fired. And I didn't know any better. But I was like, you know what? I don't want any trouble. I'll just leave. And I remember one of our customers, when I told him I'd turn in my 2 weeks, he went, "Oh, where are you going to go?" I said, "I don't know." He went, "You want to come work with me?" I was like, "Sure." This guy's name was Tim. He is a great guy. Actually, one of my favorite stories at Cards, Coins, Collectibles has to do with him. One day, Tim came in with his paycheck, and I made him spend his entire paycheck. And his wife was so mad. I remember she came into the store and chewed me out for taking advantage of her husband and taking his entire paycheck. And I said, "Ma'am, he's a grown man. He makes his own decisions. I don't know why you're mad at me. Plus, buying boxes of cards like that, that's an investment. Those cards will be worth a lot one day." Maybe not. But I remember she came in, and her name was Candy, I remember. And I just thought, wow, what a witch. And I think Tim and Candy do not live together, and I think they got a divorce years later. But I haven't talked to Tim in decades. And I do miss, I know he moved to Texas, somewhere in Texas, so I'll probably never see him again. One of the few, I have a few friends. I have another friend named Bo who moved out to Texas, and I would do anything. Like the Davises that I mentioned about during my lawn mowing days, back an episode or so ago. The Davises may have his number if they're still alive, because I know they were friends with him. But I lost it over time, and I would do anything to get in touch with Bo again, because he was just such a good friend, and I miss him. But anyway, from there, though, I started working part-time during my college. I finished off the rest of my college years working at the Assessor's office. And I have great story. I have a lot of honorable mentions here, so I'm going to get to those honorable mentions. And I want to give a shout-out. My good friend Scott, I really miss him too. He's the only person I still talk to at the Assessor's office, really, even though a few of the old people still know me. And now that I'm thinking about this, I really need to go by there and say hello. Say hello to him, because I really miss seeing everyone. Even though rarely, I don't know hardly any of those people now, I do need, it's been way overdue for me to go visit them. So, but the Assessor's office was always, it's kind of my home away from home. It's always been fond memories there. And I remember Scott had just started. I think my last year there was his first year. So, and that's when we became friends. He was a young man back then. Now he's older like me. Now, maybe more wiser too, probably. But I'd love to have him here to talk about this, because he knows all these stories just about. But me and Tim, he came after Tim had left. When Tim had left, I was so upset, because I felt like, my partner in crime had left me, and we'd done a lot of pranks together. But I remember in the morning, I used to sit next to, we were in cubicles, high cubicles, and there was two older people, Jim and Gary, and they talk for like an hour or so before. They were the field guys who go out on the field and, do work, do assessments. But before they did, they'd always sit there, drink coffee, and sit in their cubicles and just talk to each other without looking at each other, talk to each other. "Well, Jim, it's been a day, my boy, oh, my boy." And they talk back and forth and back and forth. And oh my, I would sit there and just laugh because it was like a radio show. The first hour of my morning, I would just sit there and listen to them talk. And they would just laugh and laugh. Jim didn't have a thumb. And so when he said things were going good, he'd say 2 thumbs up. And of course, one would be his nub and the other one would be his thumb. He had a great attitude. Now, both of these gentlemen have passed away. It's been years since they passed away. And, you know, I miss them dearly, dearly. To see, and actually a lot of my friends. There's Sally, the secretary, passed away. She was always the sweetest thing. Cynthia, who hated the world, hated everyone, but decided she liked me. After we worked on a project together, decided she and I were best friends. I believe Mr. Bob's still around, but he's got to be late 80s now, early 90s. But I haven't heard he passed away yet. And I used to see him all the time prior to the pandemic. I'd see him shuffling around. I know Jack and Doris are dead. They were on death's door when I worked there 25 years ago. But, I mean, Jack would carry his oxygen tank to work. I mean, I'm not making this up. He carried an oxygen tank to work. And Doris was just old as dirt. But, you know, a lot of those people have passed on, and I miss them. I miss them dearly. Because every single one of them, I'm just, you know, I'm fond of. But either way, Jim and Gary in the Morning was a great radio show. That's an honorable mention. Another thing that me and Tim did, one year they gave us badges. They gave deputy assessors badges to kind of identify themselves. And what we try to do, Tim and I try to see what all we could get away with. We stopped traffic with the badges. And I don't know who, but someone knew who Tim was, and they ratted us out and said someone from the assessor's office was flashing badges around stopping traffic. And so Mr. Rich didn't know who it was, and it was us. But he made everyone give up their badges. He went, that's not a good look for us. We'll just have you give out official cards or whatnot. So he thought badges were not a good idea. That's because we literally did try to stop. We stopped traffic holding up our badge just because we wanted to see if it worked. This is how dumb we were. I remember one time, me and my brother, because back in the day, I could hire any other part-timers to work. I was in charge of the part-timers after Tim had left. They kind of put me in charge of the part-timer workers. And so I said, okay, because I was working full-time that summer. So I hired can I hire my brother? I hired my brother and another girl named Felina. And Felina was really nice and sweet. And my brother and I, Bray, we made and it's still to this day, we talk about it. It was the world's perfect airplane, paper airplane. I mean, it was perfectly weighted. It sailed smoothly down the hallway, you know, and this was your local tax dollars at work, folks. But that's what we did all day was perfect on this airplane. Well, we threw it down the hallway, and Mr. Bailey, who rarely uses the side door to the hallway from his office, opened it up to talk to another lady named Stephanie, who is now the chief assessor. But when he opened it up, the wind blew the paper airplane into Stephanie's office, where he walked in. And we thought for sure, Mr. Rich saw that airplane, we're screwed. And they're talking, and they're talking, and they're talking. I'm like, did they not see the airplane? It should be on the ground. And so I walked in there, and I looked. You know, I was asking Stephanie a fake question. I don't remember of what. But I remember I looked down, and it was underneath. It had flown underneath her desk. And so I said, okay, cool. And so I put whatever I asked him. So I put my head around. I told Bray, I said, it's under the desk. You crawl under there and get it. I'll stall. And so I go back into the room. I said, wait, I need some more clarification. Is it? And so my brother is crawling. Somehow they don't see him because they're on the other side of the desk. He is crawling underneath her desk, you know, close to her legs to retrieve the airplane and leave. And he did, and mission successful. But I remember thinking, what an odd thing. And it was the best thing ever. That airplane, I don't even know. I kept that airplane for years. I remember it was on one of the filing cabinets. And I didn't take it with me when I left. And I regret that because it was the world's perfect paper airplane. And these are just honorable mentions, folks. These are just honorable mentions. Number 5. Tim showed me something right before he left. There's a lady called Joanne. Joanne is lovable, what was useless in the office. And I think Mr. Bailey knew that. He just kept her on because she was an old friend. But she was 1,000. No one worked. No one worked in the office. No one. That was the big thing. Everyone does nothing. You know that the show called The Office? Before that was even a show, I was living it in real life. Or maybe it was on by the time. I can't remember. No, the original one was on, but not the American one. But I mean, just imagine The Office with all the zany characters. I mean, the zaniest characters. I'm not even making it up. You could have had a TV show out of all the Sally, the secretary, was nice, but she was airheaded. She was older, but just really just, bimbo-ish, And Scott, the other Scott, who may still be there, would always call you, "Hey, brother-in-law, how's it going?" And I mean, just tons of character. The girl named Shannon, she got drunk all the time. She got banned from going on trips. She got fired from work eventually and came back because she was drinking on the job. And then she would be drunk at her desk and passed out with the bottle on the desk. I mean, and so she got fired the first time. They brought her back like a year later, and I was happy to say I welcomed her back. And she went, "Yeah, I ain't going to do that prom again." And then she got busted again because she was passed out drunk at her desk again. And then here's the thing. She worked up at the front desk. She wouldn't even want the back hallway offices. It's just funny. But she got fired again after that, and they never brought her back. But anyway. So Joanne was kind of an idiot and didn't do much, but take smoke breaks constantly. And Tim said, I always do a meeting with her, and I always see how long I can get it to last. And I try to talk about really nothing and see how long. He was like the gym. Tim was like the gym around the office. He was the gym. He was the one smirking at the camera. And he said, let's see how long we can get her to talk about something. And what it was, we had created a system, I'm doing air quotations here, of an in and an out basket. When someone wants when the order goes, needs to go out, you put it in the out basket. Once the field team has selected out the out basket and they've worked the, assessment, they will put it in the in basket so it can go back into the system. It was well over an hour of us explaining how the in and out basket works. We gave different scenarios. We gave what if scenarios. What if it comes back in, yet there was an error and it needs to go back out again? Well, then will you put it in the out box again? Now, when he corrects it, does he put it in the inbox or give it back to the, assessor who ordered it? He will put it back in the inbox. I mean, seriously, we did this for a full hour. And she was like, okay, all right, uh-huh. What kind of dummy are you? And I remember I was trying so hard. Like I thought we're not going to last 10 minutes in her office. And it was an hour. We were so happy. We'd wasted an hour of her time having this meeting about the inbox and the outbox and what it means. I swear it was the office before its time. That's exactly what it was. And I know if my other buddy Scott was here, he would agree wholeheartedly, maybe that it still is. But anyway, that's just number 5. Let's go. Number 4. I think I've told this story, but I was in college. One of my professors gave me a D. I thought it was very unfair. It was one of the few Ds, 2 Ds I ever got. And I thought it was so unfair. No, it was a C. Excuse me, it was a C. And I thought it was so unfair because I had made an A. This was geology, the study of rocks. Is that geology? Geology 101 and 102 I took the same semester. 102 I had an A. And I had A's and B's across the board. But he had given me a C. I remember his name was Dr. Glaw. And so I challenged my grade. And I used my report, my GPA, which was all A's and B's, because back then I hadn't made a C yet. And I was like, dude, I am an A-B student, and I study hard. And look, in Geology 102, I made a straight A. It's not like the subject was hard. In 102, I made an A. I said, he gave me a C, but it was unfair. And so I challenged it. Well, then they brought him in. He looked at me. He went, nope, I'm not going to talk about this. And he walked away. He goes, well, I'm sorry, Matt, but, Mr. Wilkins, but you can't get the letter grade. You heard him. I was like, wait, he didn't even come in and argue. I said, he can just walk off like that? I'm challenging the grade. He needs to defend his, but he knew he was garbage. He was such garbage. Now, true, I fell asleep in his class. And he knew that because I was in the front row and I plumb fell asleep. I slept through it. And I'd also I'd wad up paper and shoot in the waste paper basket when his back was turned. He never knew it was me, but I think he found out. Either way, he hated me, which is why he gave me a C, and I kind of knew that too. But I was a jerk too, and I was trying to get my letter grade. Well, anyway, when he refused to meet me, I was so pissed, and so I wasn't a deputy assessor. I was just a part-time worker there, and so I went ahead and I gave him a what did I do? Oh, I gave him the I had his house reassessed for taxes. I looked him up and had his house reassessed for taxes. Now, I'm not a deputy assessor. I had no right on doing that. And so when the assessor came in, he went, wait a minute, Matt, did you order this? I went, yeah. He went, why'd you do it? And I told him, I said, he gave me a C, and it was so unfair. He goes, okay. So he ordered it. The field agent who got the order said, wait a minute, wait, Matt? And so he called me and said, hey, Matt, I got an order from you? Is that right? You can't give orders. I went, I know, but, and I told him the story. He went, okay, buddy, I got you. Don't worry, Matt. I'm gonna reassess him high. I was like, okay, good, please do, because it was maybe 97 or no, it had to be, 97, 98 or 90, whatever, one of those, and he hadn't been reassessed. It was in 99, and he hadn't been reassessed since 1977. Those are 22 years. Got to get reassessed. And then when it went to the chief assessor for approval, Joanne, she was like, whoa. And she came, Matt, why'd you do this? And I didn't want to tell her the story because I thought she's never going to believe me. And I said, look, I just saw he hadn't been assessed in 22 years, so I thought I'd get him assessed. He went, Matt, that's not your job. I went, and then one of the other people heard that she was like, she's like, thank you, but that's not your job. I can't approve this because it wasn't approved. We do these assessments by sections. Only special orders do we do these. And then one of the assessors came in and said, hey, whoa, tell him the story, Matt. And I said, well, the teacher wasn't nice to me. He's a professor at ULM. And then, and the other guy goes, he gave Matt a C. And she went, oh, really? And so she signed it. And I figure I wasted, about $450 on his class. I'm sure he paid that back 10 times over in his new exalted higher tax bracket I put him in. So yeah, that's me abusing power at number 4. And you think, what could get better than that? I'm so glad you asked. Number 3 was my coup de grace, I guess, when leaving. They were so slow at everything. They never turned off my answering machine until 10 years after I'd left. I was 32 when they turned off my answering machine. 10 years later. I left right as I graduated. And I remember, I was like, whoa, Nelly, what are they doing? So for 10 years, periodically, every other month or so, or maybe whenever I had friends over, I'd say, hey, watch this. And I'd dial my work number. And listen, I'd hear me and I'd leave myself a message. 10 years later, my buddy Morgan called me. He was the computer guy. He went, hey, Matt. I went, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey, just wanted you to know we just decommissioned your phone today. I went, oh, you did? He went, yep. He said, there were 166 messages. I thought there was 175, but I guess I miscounted. He said there were 166 messages, and because there were messages, he had to listen to every one before he decommissioned the phone in case it was something urgent. He said, and it was all from you over the past 10 years. And I went, yep. He went, you've been calling your line for 10 years now, leaving messages to yourself? I would say, hey, past me, this is future me. How you doing? And I said, yep. He went, well, you can't call it anymore. I said, love you too, Morgan. And he hung up. Oh, it was great. That was great times, man. Great times. I was kind of bummed that they, that with my answer machine closing, that means I could never go back. Oh, man. Oh, super funny stuff. So after that, let me see. Where am I? After that, I went, where's my number 3? That's number 3. That's number 2. Two, there it is. Don't have these in descending order here. Okay. So, oh man. No, this is number 2. I thought these should be number 1 here. So back in the day, your call waiting music was on a CD player that was hooked. It was tied to the phone line, but they had a CD playing like Kenny G or some elevator music. I discovered on my own where that CD player was. Remember, this is the late 90s. And for April Fools, I'm a big April Fools fan, I decided to switch it out with Metallica. And the thing was, it was super funny, right? I forgot to take it out. And it was there for a good 2 weeks. And the only reason I got caught was because when they put someone on hold and picked back up, the customer said, y'all have some strange hold music for a assessor's office. She went, really? So she listened to it and heard Metallica, told Morgan, who grabbed the CD, ripped it out, replaced it with the regular one, knew there was only one person in that entire office who was under the age of 50 who would be listening to Metallica. I remember I was working in the office. He threw the CD down, and my heart dropped because I realized I never got it out of the CD player. He goes, hey, Matt, found this CD in the call thing. Do you know anything about it? I went, no, I do not. He said, that is not your CD? I went, no, but I would love to have it in my collection, so thank you very much. And then he looked at me, he went, don't do that again, and walked away. I guess I may have become the Jim after Tim had left of the office space. But that was a fun day. But not does it beat numero uno. So I was there, quote unquote, computer guy, meaning every new computer program for graph, you could type in a code, it would pop up the floor plan graphs and stuff like that. I was the guy who updated all the records and did that. Basically, data entry became my job after I cleaned up all the files. I started working in data entry, putting things into a computer. And so I did that a lot. And as I was doing all the data entry stuff, I found out how to create land. Now you're thinking, how can you wait? You can create land and make land disappear? Yeah, it's called floods. When a flood comes, sometimes land is covered permanently, and so you have to delete it from the system. Or a lake dries up. If a lake dries up and it's not going to be replaced, that we have to distribute that as new land to be assessed. So there's a code to create new land. And just one day I got to that part and asked for my use. Now only the assessor for the parish, the chief assessor, they're the only ones who can do this. No one else has the code. No one else can do it. It must be done by the elected official. I guessed his password. I won't say it just in case, because he's still alive, and I love Mr. Bailey. I love Mr. Bailey. I did see him maybe like 2 or 3 years ago and sat next to him at a theater show, and we laughed, had a great time together. I love that old man, and because this was one that I could have gotten fired on so bad, and I didn't. And I reminded him of this story, actually. It was the last time we talked. So I guessed his password because I knew who his favorite. He liked old country. I guessed the song. I guessed the year the album came out. I guessed it immediately. All the numbers and everything. Got his password. Probably guessed on the second try. Was so super excited. I created my own huge mansion. And see, because I was data entry, I was used to editing. I could edit. I couldn't create. I was used to editing everything. I had a map code, plat map, everything. I created, it looked so legit. When I showed it off to some of the assessors, they went, shut up. How did you do this? Because it had my name, and I lived on 21 Jump Street, Waka Waka. And I was like, yeah. And I said, you want to assess this? And he said, Matt, this has a plat number, map number, everything. This looks legit. And I went, yeah. And I'm like giving high fives around the office. And so I said, okay, because Mr. Bailey was off that day. And I said, okay, I'm going to delete it before he comes back. Well, the password to delete something was not the same as the password to create something. And for the life of me, I couldn't guess what his password to delete land was. And that's when I knew I was screwed. I also owed the county, what we call them parishes here in Louisiana, I also owed them about $10,000 in taxes because it started assessing me for taxes. And I was like, oh no. And I remember I was at school. I went to school. I felt sick to my stomach, like wanting to throw up. I brought a cardboard box with me that next day because I knew Rich Bailey was going to fire me. I went up to the office. I went straight to the office when I came in. I knew I wouldn't even go to my desk. You know, I knew I was going to get yelled at and chewed out and spit out. And he said he had to leave early today. I went, really? I said, did he see my land? She went, yes, he did. And I went, am I fired? You know? And she goes, oh, no. He laughed and said, well, I guess that's what I get for having an easy password to guess. So he deleted your land, changed the password, and he said it was funny. I went, I'm not fired. You know, I was so relieved. I was so relieved. I thought for sure he was good. And we never really, when he came back into the office the next day after, we never spoke about it. Life went on as normal. I didn't want to bring it up, and he just never brought it up. And I asked him, I said, do you remember that? He said, I certainly do. And he laughed. He went, that was great. That was great. He said, I wasn't going to let you go. You're a hard worker, and you like to joke around. We all knew that. He said, that was fine. And man, he was awesome. True story, I almost ran for assessor. Almost ran for assessor when he finally retired. But I was traveling so much with the company I work for now that I couldn't run in fact, I talked to a guy who ran elections who was willing to help me out. And he agreed that the other person I would be running against was crooked and that she shouldn't have the job. But it never worked out. And so I don't have delusions of grandeur anymore about doing that, but I wanted to. So how did I leave? Because they offered me a full-time job. The moment I graduated was in 99. They offered me, they threw me when I graduated college, they threw me a graduating party. I remember someone gave me, well, was it for my birthday? I don't know. But they gave me Phantom Menace on DVD. So maybe it was at the end of the year. Oh, no, I graduated that December of 99. So never mind. So Phantom Menace would have been out. They gave me Phantom Menace on DVD. And they offered me a full-time job because I had graduated. And I was like, thank you, but I don't accept. My dad. Wait. No. I'm mistaken. I went to a different job. I'd gone to a different job. I'd hopped to a few different jobs at that time. And then my dad had found a job for me. Actually, yeah, I have enough time. So I went to work. No, I don't. No. I decided I wanted to do something else. And I wanted to leave them. And I was going... Oh, wait, was this right? What did I do for the year 2000? Oh, yeah. I was going to go to work someplace, but it fell through. And so I did odd and end jobs for a little while before eventually hopping on with this internet. Wireless internet was a new thing back then, 2001. And I just jumped on to them, I believe. Was it them? No, I'm getting ahead of myself. No, I was still there. Yeah. So hold on. I need to hold off because I'll talk about that next week, I think. Dang. I can't remember if that's where I worked or not. I can't remember these next two places where I worked. I think I went, no, never mind. So I can talk about this. I did a few odd and end jobs working for appraisers because I really wanted to be an appraiser. Didn't get the chance because no one would take me on full time. So I finally quit, left to a wireless place. They were going to establish Wi-Fi in Louisiana, here in our area. And then September 11th, 2001 was my first day to go into the office. And we shut down immediately. It was when that happened, everything got put on hold and plans crashed and I didn't have a job. So, bad time. I remember that day too. Maybe I'll talk about that next time. On Saturday morning, Samoflange.